Hello, and welcome to Activity-Based Learning with AVR Platform webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Karthik, Senior Manager at Eon Reality. I've been working with Eon for over 7 years, delivering AR and VR solutions across Asia Pacific and Middle East region. I will be the facilitator for today's session. I would like to introduce my colleagues and co-speakers for this session. Dr. Peter Luker, our Chief Learning Officer. Peter was the head of Teaching and Learning at NTU before he joined us at Eon Reality. And also Mr. Jonathan, our Teaching and Learning Specialist. Jonathan has vast experience in integrating learning technologies and helped various educators around the Asian region with technology adoption. Before we continue, I would request all the participants to mute themselves and ask any questions you may have using the chat box. This webinar session runs about 40 minutes with Q&A at the end, where we'll be able to answer all your questions. I would now request Mr. Peter to share a few words about the agenda of this session and the challenges we face implementing the home-based learning. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Karthik, and welcome everybody to the webinar. Let's have a look at the overall aims of this webinar, which are to introduce the AVR platform as a means of engaging students in self-directed learning. So central to this webinar are two ideas: self-directed learning and activity-based learning, and they're joined together. So it's self-directed learning through designing learning activities using immersive media. The pedagogical emphasis is on students learning through doing rather than through learning from explanation. So let's have a quick look at the agenda. We want to look at the current challenges in home-based learning. Home-based learning presents a number of new challenges for both teachers and students, and probably for parents as well. What are those challenges and how can we address them? How can the AVR platform be used for activity-based learning? As I said, central to this whole webinar is the notion of students learning through activities, and strategies for student engagement, which we will talk about later, and also finally how Eon Reality is able to support you in all of this.
Welcome again to the AVR platform. This quick start video guide will help new users get started creating and experiencing immersive learning content using a mobile device and a free account on the AVR platform. Let's get started by opening our device, be it an Android or iOS, phone or tablet. Next, we're going to head to the App Store and search Creator AVR. Once the app is installed, let's open it up to get started.
So let's have a look now at some of the more specific outcomes that we hope will come from this webinar. By the end of this short presentation, we hope you'll be able to do the following: to use the AVR platform to encourage students in self-directed learning in augmented and virtual reality, to be able to explain the main functionalities of the AVR platform, and also to deploy a few principles of AVR lesson building to support student learning. But let's have a look at some of these challenges. One of the challenges with home-based and self-directed learning is being able to sustain students' focus and engagement. One of the things about home-based learning is that because the students are not in the classroom, there need to be different ways to try and encourage them to sustain their focus and engagement. And some forms of existing online learning don't do that particularly well. Another is maintaining technological interactivity without glitches. We noticed that in Singapore on the first day of home-based learning, there were some glitches and there were complaints about glitches in the technology for students. The expense of ICT tools and hardware may be a barrier in some cases, and that might be particularly the case where in people's perception of immersive learning, and I hope that we will be able to address that very easily. The difficulty of monitoring student learning and therefore difficulty in teachers adapting teaching to student needs. In the classroom, of course, it's very easy to be able to see what students are doing, to monitor what they're doing, to check the pace and to change. But in home-based learning, that might be more difficult. So that's something that we'd like to address as well. Underlying all of this is that the natural way of learning is in 3 dimensions. So that's a kind of underlying principle of what we're talking about here, and that therefore students are engaged because they can manipulate and learn in 3D by using the AVR platform. Learning can be shared, and put in more real-world contexts. One of the things that we know is that there's a need for students much more to be able to see the real-world context of their learning and to understand it better. Therefore, abstract thinking can be embodied, visualized, and understood, and also abstract knowledge can have real-world applications by using the AVR platform. Self-directed learning is something encouraged very much by the Ministry of Education in Singapore, and this is not a new thing. This has been going for at least 10 years. If you go back to the 2010 article quoted at the bottom of the page by Chai and Wang, self-directed learning is seen by the Ministry of Education as a key 21st century skill, and they discuss that and the Ministry of Education's desire for self-directed learning. And again, in the article that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, Desired Outcomes of Education for Singapore from 2018, they describe a successful learner as a self-directed learner who takes responsibility for his own learning, who questions, reflects, and perseveres in the pursuit of learning. So the question for teachers is, what kinds of things do we do in order to encourage self-directed learning? What kinds of activities do we give students to encourage self-directed learning? And now I'd like to hand back to Kartik, who's going to describe to you some aspects of the AVR platform.
Thanks for sharing your valuable insights, Peter. AVR stands for Augmented and Virtual Reality. As the image here illustrates, we brought together a suite of VR and AR technologies together and developed a platform that helps teachers and educators to create their own AR and VR content. The platform is hardware agnostic and also cross-platform compatible. We also have a mobile application called Creator AVR. Using this app, teachers and students can actually explore the lessons in 4 different modes. Now, one of the biggest challenges in adopting to VR and AR technologies is that we require a specific game engine skill set or simulation development skill set, and it's also quite time consuming. AVR platform is designed to address these challenges and allows teachers to focus on creating their lessons and creating activities for the students. I would now request Jonathan to demonstrate how we can create different activities using the AVR platform. Over to you, Jonathan.
Okay, I think everybody should be able to see my screen now. Okay, great. Let's get started. Thank you, Kartik. Thank you, Peter. Hi everyone, my name is John, and today I'll be showing you how can we apply activity-based teaching and learning with the AVR platform. Now, the idea is to move away from the traditional mode of just simply giving information to the learner and get them to do some activities to help them along their learning process and understanding. So AVR platform lends itself very well with this through the use of 3D models, augmented and sometimes virtual reality as well. Okay, so I'll be showing you how we can use some of the default features in here to create some activities. Some of you may have seen this before, some of you might not have. So this is the login page to the AVR platform. It's a web-based platform. Some of you may have seen it, but you may not have an account as well. So you can actually click here to sign up for a free account with us, or use Google or Facebook accounts to instantly create your account through single sign-on. Okay, I have my account here. Let's sign in and get started. Well, for those of you who might have seen the AVR platform before, you might not have seen the new look and feel. So the brand new look and feel is all about making information a lot easier and quicker to the user, and they can immediately access it. So once you have logged in, you see that we brought the library page where you can see all the available lessons. There are 2 types of lessons. For those who are not familiar, there are 3D lessons, which are lessons created using around a 3D model, and 360 lessons, which are lessons crafted from using single or multiple 360 photos and packaged together in a lesson. So today I'll be showing you how we can do activity-based teaching and learning through a 3D lesson. So let's get started. So first things first, let's create a lesson. Now obviously today I won't have time to create the entire lesson. Instead, what I'm going to do is I want to focus on those key features that allows you to that you can actually use to create activity-based learning experiences. So I'm going to choose a 3D lesson, and I'm going to use an existing asset. Now for my topic today, I was thinking of doing the solar system. So I'm going to type the word solar, hit enter, and you see that there'll be some models that can come up already. I'm going to choose a solar system model because that's the one I want to use. And my topic today is solar system and colonization. So a little bit of a cross-disciplinary kind of attempt here. Let's park this under geography because we're talking about colonization, and let's build our lesson. So as you can see, the process for you to get started to quickly create your lesson is really fast. Log in, create the lesson, click create lesson, choose the model that you want to use, and give it a title, and you're good to go. So let's give it a second for it to load here. Uh, and oh, it's done. Okay, great. Let's go full screen then. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, this is our lesson editor. Now you can see I have the model that I've selected here. I can of course zoom in by using my mouse and zoom out. This is a 3D model of the solar system, and in the middle of course is the sun. Now with any 3D model, we have some interaction tools like the ability to explode the model into different parts, to call up labels, or sometimes we call them annotations or memos. Not all models have this, but some models have animation like this one, which we're going to use as part of the activities. And of course, one of my favorite tools is the dissection tool that allows me to move the model or pieces of the model around. Now this can be great for different kind of subjects, and again, all this comes with every single 3D lesson that you create. Alright, so let's get started with the activity-based learning. Okay, so first things first, we're going to create an introduction. Now in most introductions, most teachers would actually give a lesson objective, like through this lesson you'll be learning point A, B, and C. I'm going to extend that idea by using this to kickstart my activities. So I click the person icon, and now there are two options here. I can actually use text to speech, which I'm going to show you how that works. Or if you already pre-recorded previous lecture or from another lesson, or sometimes a YouTube video and you found a piece of audio that you really like, you can actually take that audio, upload it, and that becomes part of your narration. Now I'm going to use text to speech in this case. Let's click OK. And because I've scripted my lesson already, I'm going to copy and paste my instructions here. So I'm giving an introduction by telling them that you will need to recall information from previous chapters on gravity and apply it to this lesson on the solar system. Again, cross-disciplinary subject. Throughout this lesson, you may be asked to launch the lesson AR mode or touch mode to interact and complete the activities. Please play the attached video for an overview of the planets, and then play the on-screen recording to start off your lesson activities. So this is my text for them. I've asked them to recall past information, apply it to this lesson. They're going to have to do certain things like AR mode or touch mode, and the next step for them is to play the video and the on-screen recording to kickstart the activities. Now I can of course choose different languages and regions. If you type Mandarin and you choose Chinese, it will speak in Chinese, or same for Japanese, Korean, and other languages as well. In this case, I'm going to choose UK English. Brian, I'm going to click synthesize, and let's play back to make sure that the audio sounds alright.
Hi learners, in this lesson, you will need to recall information from your previous chapter on gravity and apply it to this lesson
sounds
on
alright.
the solar system.
So let's click OK. So the text to speech sounds okay. It renders, and now when it turns white, it means that now I have a text to speech. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a video. Now in this case, I'm attaching a YouTube video. So all you need to do is copy and paste the link, and that's it. So in my instructions, I told the learner, play the video and play the on-screen recording to kickstart your activity. So there's a video now, and let's do an on-screen recording. Now, on-screen recording are a very powerful tool that allows you to capture whatever happens on the screen. And not only that, it captures your voice and the interactions as well. So I'm going to do a quick activity using the on-screen recording. To do that, I just have to click the record button. Hi students, to start off your lesson, I would like you to do a simple activity. I would like you to do an observation activity using this model and do some research and write down your findings in your activity sheet. So as you can see in the middle is the sun. Now the planets revolve around the sun. I would like you to play the animation button like what I'm doing now and observe the rotation of the planets around the sun. If you notice, they rotate at different speeds and their own rotations are slightly different as well. Please go and research the different rotations of the planets in the solar system and explain how does gravity explain the differences in terms of the rotations of each and for the different planets in the solar system. Write your answers in the activity sheet. Okay, so I've done my first activity asking them to do observation and research and to write their answer down in the activity sheet. So if I click the play button now, it will play back both my audio and the actions that I've done. To start off your lesson, I would like you to do a simple activity. Now this is from a third person perspective, so you can see from far away where I'm pointing and where I'm looking at. So as you can see in the middle, where you can see the green bubble is where I actually place my mouse. Now I can change this to a first person view as well. So this will show the student what I am looking at, so they have a better understanding what I'm asking them to do. And their own rotations. So that's my first activity, using on-screen recording to give them instructions for them to see from my perspective at what I need them to do. So that's my first activity. Let's move on to the second activity. Okay, the second activity is a little bit more straightforward. I'm going to call up the labels or the memos or the annotations in some cases. Alright, so we're going to talk about colonization, and my theme today is about Mars. So here I have a label about the planet Mars here. Now what I can do is actually I can, instead of giving a label, like just telling them this is Mars, right, which gives very little learning value other than what this place is, I am going to change this into a question. So I'm relabeling this to a question here. And the question is, using gravity, explain why is Mars suitable for colonization. So I'm going to click OK. And so when the student calls up the memos, he will notice, instead of seeing the word Mars, he will see a question here. Now, even if he doesn't launch the annotation, it doesn't mean he'll miss on the learning. Let's create an activity here. So I'm going to click the plus sign for Mars, and I'm going to add the next set of instructions for the student. I'm going to use the text-to-speech again. Now again, because I've already pre-scripted everything, so it's just a copy and paste job for myself. Okay, so it's good for you to plan ahead to think about how the interactions will be. So learners, in previous chapters, we talked about how the Earth's gravity and distance from the Sun is ideal for life. Launch AR mode and use the animation to compare Earth's orbit to Mars and Venus, and why Mars is the next ideal candidate for colonization. Okay, so again, I'm going to choose UK English for consistency. Let's synthesize it. Let's click play just to check.
Learners, in previous chapters, we talked about how
Okay,
the
sounds
Earth's
alright.
gravity...
So good. So now I've created my second activity, which is the student will have to play this in AR mode, observe Earth, Mars and Venus, and explain why, through the eyes of gravity, why Mars is the more ideal choice to colonize. Now later I'll play this lesson back as a student, and we'll see how the student will interact with this activity. Okay, so the last activity that we can actually build is a very simple one. So right now I have the model of the solar system, and sometimes when we ask questions, it's difficult for students to answer when they don't have something to visualize with, or to give them clues or to help them along with the answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a simple activity called quiz. Quiz is basically a multiple choice question, and I'm going to use the model as a backdrop for this question. Now to do this, instead of asking like basic questions that have a straightforward answer, let's change the question type. Let's call this, what other factors are considered for colonization? Now, because the student has access to this model as he or she answers it, he or she will be able to think about critically using the model whether what could the possible answer or answers be. So here I have 4 choices. Again, I have already pre-scripted everything, so I'm just going to copy and paste my answers in. Okay, so just give me a second, please. Okay, so there's a few possible answers here, and let's put in the last one. So okay, so I have 4 different answers now. What are the factors considered for colonization? Now with the AVR platform, you don't have to stick to just one answer, you get multiple answers. So what are the factors considered for colonization? Well, distance from the Sun, yes. Rotation of the Earth, not so much, although there's some logistics issues. Let's leave that alone. Access resources, yes. Okay, so these are the 3 answers that are considered for colonization, and let's click done. So later when we play it back, you'll see how the student is able to actually look at the model and kind of think, you know, from using the model as a reference, how would they answer that question, rather than, you know, I have to go and research an answer, or I'm given a picture and try to figure it out. Okay, let's click save. So I've created 3 activities now. Let's just click save first. Okay, and once this is saved, okay, great, it's done. Let's click exit. Okay, and now I have my desktop. Alright. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to see from the learner's perspective how they would um, attempt these activities that we have created using AVR platform. So what I've done is I brought up my phone to the screen. So what you see is a live view of my phone. So for example, okay, and we have this app called Creator AVR. Again, don't worry about remembering the names and the links of AVR platform and all that. We'll be sharing with you during this webinar and after as well, so you don't have to rush for pen and paper. The app Creator AVR allows us to link up with the AVR platform. So as you can see, I've launched it. You can see the interface is really pretty similar to the AVR platform. Straight away you come in, you have the library, choose the lesson that you're interested in, and get started. Now let's sign in. If you haven't created your account on the AVR platform, you can also create your account here via the Creator AVR app by clicking here, create new account. The login is exactly the same. So I'm going to use my credentials to sign in. Okay, let's sign in. And if you notice that this is really very fast. So just now we created the lesson on the AVR platform. Now the lesson will be available here. Now because I'm the author of the lesson, so I'm going to my workspace. Now how do you share it with your students? You can give them a share link, or you can assign it to the students so they'll be able to see the lesson. In my case, because I'm the author, again, I'm going back to where it is. So here we go, solar system and colonization. You can click on that, and you'll see that there are 3 buttons. The first button is the edit button that will allow me to continue editing the lesson. I can do pretty much everything the same as what I did on the desktop that I did earlier on the mobile device. So you can start on the desktop, continue on mobile device, or the other way around as well. Start lesson is to play the lesson as how the learner will see it, and we're going to do that in a short moment. And collaborate. So collaborate is a fantastic feature that allows you to bring together multiple learners to view the same object. They can do it remotely. They can interact with it. They can take turns. It's a really good feature. Unfortunately, today we don't have time to go through that, but we'll show you a short video on how that would look like just after this demo. So let's click Start Lesson. And let's see how a learner would experience these activities that we have created. Now bear in mind, I didn't create an entire lesson. I'm just showing you some of the features that you could use to create activities, or at least lead up to activities. Whether you use this with an LMS, with a worksheet, with a blog, instructions, it's up to you. But the idea of AVR platform is that it lends itself to change the way you learn rather than giving 2D pictures and videos as well. Okay, so now I have my model. As you can see, I can still interact with it. I can pinch and zoom. Let's click the intro button.
Hi learners, in this lesson, you will
So
need to
you can
recall
hear the
information
instructions.
from your...
So the learner will hear instructions, and the instructions in this case was to they'll play the intro, they'll watch a video. So I'm going to click on the video button just to show you that it loads. Okay, so the video loads as well, and then they're supposed to play the on-screen recording. So let's click the play sign here. And,
Hi students.
and just like just now when we play back, I can change the
I would like you to do a
point of view. So this is a first person view,
activity using this model.
or
and
I
do
can
some
go with a
research
third
and
person
write
view
down
as
your
well.
findings in your activity sheet.
So the learner will actually have a better idea of what they're supposed to do, and because this is a 3D model, you can make the instructions or the activity more complex. In this case, I'm just showing you how an on-screen recording could just kick off a simple activity, which is asking them to play the animation button to do observation of the different planets and their rotation around the sun, go and do some research, use this model as a reference, and answer in a activity page, an activity sheet. So this is my first activity that I've done. Really very simple one. Alright, now the second activity that we did was using the memos function. So let's call it the memos or labels. And remember, we renamed Mars into a question. Using gravity, explain why is Mars suitable for colonization. Now again, if the student never call it labels, doesn't mean that he's going to miss out on that question or that learning. If I tap on the lesson bar, I will actually see it here as a second activity. So you can see the question there, using gravity, explain why Mars is suitable for colonization. In the instructions that we gave to them, that they were supposed to launch this model in AR mode and observe Mars and Venus and Earth in relation to Earth, and why, through the eyes of gravity, Mars is more preferable. So let's do that. So if you see on the top left hand corner, there's an AR and VR. Any 3D lesson that you create, there will be an AR and VR mode. I'm going to tap on AR, and this is why we have to use a mobile device rather than the desktop to play this. Now we're using this thing called markerless AR. Markerless AR allows us to launch a model anywhere. I'm using this pad here that you can see as just for contrast because my floor is a bit shiny. So you can see the square. I'm going to drop the model there. Okay, great. Here is my solar system. Because in markerless AR, we can also scale it up by pinching and zooming. We can also rotate it this way other than physically moving around. I prefer physically moving around because I think that's more interactive and more fun. Okay, so instructions were, let me make this bigger. I can go into the solar system. Play the animation in AR mode, observe the planets, and this is really very different from the touch mode because here is so much more activity, so much more movement, and now I can actually see the different planets and their rotations, and I'm supposed to explain by observing why Mars, and of course through the eyes of gravity, why Mars is more preferable than Venus. Is it because of proximity to the sun? Does Venus has a higher gravity than Mars? Is it because the rotation of Mars is slower rather than faster on Venus? Could these be factors? So these are things that you just can't do it, without augmented reality or 3D model. If you give a student a picture or video, they're not going to be able to catch it. So this is really very interactive. I can even go in closer if I really want to see it. Yeah. Okay, so with this, they will fill in the answers in the activity sheet. So great, I completed my second activity. Let's go back touch mode. Okay, lastly, let's go to the last activity that we have. So I have the model here. The last activity is a quiz. Now in the quiz, again, I have the model here as a reference. The learner will be able to answer the quiz using the model as a backdrop, helping them to come out or possibly deriving an answer. Now I didn't change the amount of time awarded for this, but you can always adjust that. So what factors are considered for colonization? Is it distance from Earth, rotation of the Earth, distance from the Earth, distance from the sun, distance from the Earth, access to resources. So again, when I look at this, I can see this in scale and ask myself, if I want to move to, let's say, Saturn, does distance from the sun matter, or distance from the Earth matter, or the rotation of the Earth? Is it because the Earth moves at a different speed and I'm going to miss out on the window to fly to those planets? So you see, I can key in the right answers and I get the correct answer because I'm looking at this and I can get a better sense of what is possible in sense of scale. Now, with that being said, you can use this, apply this to any other subject, any other topic matter. You can make your activities more complex. You can do this in a blended methodology with other learning materials as well. You don't have to restrict yourself to just AVR. Of course, you can create a self-directed learning experience. That means fully everything within AVR platform. That's fine as well. But the idea is, try not to go too much of a traditional mode where you're just giving information. Get the learners to interact and do something. And with AVR, you can make the learning so much more interesting. So that's it. That's the end of my demo. Thank you. And I'll hand the time back to Karthik and Peter.
Thanks, Jonathan, for the excellent demonstration. Along with the activities that we can create within the platform, we can also use collaborate mode, where we can allow multiple students to interact within the same lesson. Here is a quick video showcasing this feature.
Also new to Creator AVR, you can forget being limited to one-on-one sessions. With the new collaboration feature, you can now allow others to learn with you through Creator AVR's lessons. With a simple email invitation, 2 or more students or trainees can experience the same lesson at the same time, making it ideal both for group studying as well as instructors looking to teach more efficiently.
Creator AVR is available to download from App Store and Play Store. Participants can also use the QR code here to download the app. We also have a YouTube video explaining all the features that Jonathan just showcased now. And here's the link to the video. And we will also be sharing this presentation to all the participants at the end of our session. I would now request Peter to share some useful tips and suggestions for creating activities that keep the students engaged. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Karthik. Some of the strategies that you can use, which Jonathan has already demonstrated to you, is to have clear learning goals and outcomes planned for the students. So the students know where they're meant to be going. This really helps in self-directed learning. To decide on the kind of interaction that you would like the students to have, Jonathan showed you a number of different functionalities, and obviously you're going to choose those according to what it is that you want and what kind of learning you want the students to have. to design the lessons that link the various AVR platform functionalities so that students have a sense of a learning sequence or a narrative. Again, you saw Jonathan doing that, thinking about how one thing links to another and how it can have meaning. And instead of giving direct information to students, include open-ended questions that encourage exploration. If we're talking about self-directed learning and activity-based learning, then clearly one of the things that we want is to encourage students to explore, and the AVR platform allows that to happen. The other thing is to chunk the lessons and not to make them too long so that the students are going to get engaged in those lessons and then they can move to another one. And also to make sure that you blend the use of AVR platform with other media and online material to get a better overall student engagement, so that an overall series of lessons or student activities is going to involve a number of different things as well as the AVR platform, and it's where that is placed in the overall sequence that's important.
Thank you, Peter. Beyond Reality is now offering free access to AVR platform. You can register and create up to 5 lessons that you can share with your students. If you'd like to learn more about our AVR platform, please write to us at sales@eonreality.com. We have a total of 50 participants join the session today. A big thank you to each and everyone for your time. Looking forward to seeing you all using AVR platform. Thank you, Peter and Jonathan, for sharing your valuable insights. Stay safe, everyone, and stay healthy. Thank you.